Hey everybody, it's Big John back again. I'm working on the Trailblazer today. My 02 Trailblazer. It's got the inline 6, the 4.2 liter with four-wheel drive and all that good shit, standard. Runs pretty good, actually. And it drives decent, except had a wobble. This front tire was all kinds of wonky and wobbly. And if you could tell, if I lift that tire up, get in here where I can show you. The inside of that's all wore thin. There's spots where cords are showing right there. It's pretty bad. I got a ride coming to take me over a little ways away. Found a used tire at a tire shop. They're willing to sell me and mount and balance it and get that taken care of. I'm not putting new on it yet, but it's the tie rod assembly. And if you can tell, get down in here, see a light. Oh, you can see it. That tie rod, the inner one, is just all kinds of loose, all kinds of it. Still a little warm from the torch, but there's the outer one. It's just as bad. I got this new one. I say I can't even turn that pushing down against the hood of the truck. I can't even move that. Yeah, that was my problem, or at least a problem. So we're gonna put this all on. I gotta wait on my ride to go get that tire, so I can go get the tool to take that inner tie rod off. Because this is what that was supposed to be when I went and got it at the AutoZone. Tie rod end remover. It's what I assumed was going to be the tool, and it's not. It's just some kind of a little press deal to get it off the steering knuckle. And shit, that's what that pickle fork's there for. I like hitting stuff with hammers. But that's what I'm doing today, and we'll have the Trailblazer up and going and be driving it. The transmission went out of my C10. If I walk right around here to the corner, it's going to be bright as hell out here. It's parked over here. I've been daily driving that thing for a couple months now since I got it running. And I lost the 2 to 3 shift in it, and the transmission started whining real bad. And it's a 3-speed 350 turbo with a shift kit in it. And yeah, she started whining a week or two ago, and I knew it was a matter of time. And then on my way to work the other morning, I lost the 2 to 3 shift. I limped it back home after work. And our shop's only maybe 10 miles up the road out through the country, and I limped it back home real easy like, and then she's done. It'll still move. I could still start it up and move it out here around the yard stuff, but I want to be able to keep doing that until I can get it backed in and get a new transmission stuck in it. And I think I've got a 5-speed found out of a early 90s 6-cylinder truck, and so we're gonna put the 5-speed in her, mount a clutch pedal and all that. I gotta find that clutch pedal, but that's what we're doing today. Killing some time, waiting on a ride. I'll show you when I get it all put together. We'll take her for a cruise. Say hi to Delilah. You can say hi to Delilah. Yeah, she's a good girl. Good girl. So, it's the next morning. I had a little bit of issues. But here is the used tire, Firestone Destination, that I got from the tire shop. It's like almost brand new tread. Still has some of the nipples on the sidewall down here, if you can see them. I was pretty happy with that. It was a little more expensive than I wanted for used. They charged me $40 for the tire and $20 for the mount and balance and getting rid of the old one. But for the condition that the tire's in, I kind of wish they had two of them, and I'd just go ahead and replace that one too. And not have to worry about putting new ones on it one of these days. But when I do get new ones put on, that one can be a spare. I'll just have to find another 6-lug rim that'll fit this Trailblazer and use that as a spare. And say hi to Duke. Say hi to Duke. Oh, hey Dukey. We ran into a little problem. Now, here is the tool for taking that inner tie rod off. I just went ahead and bought this one. They had another one that was on their rent-a-tool that was a big long piece and different adapters to fit the notches on the sides. Those fit in those notches, and like a big socket that would slide over and grab it and twist it off. But this one just clamps over. You put your breaker bar or ratchet, whatever, in there and twist it. I was kind of concerned. After torquing it down, I was kind of concerned because it's for a 3/8 drive, and as tight as that outer was on there, and as much as I had to heat on that to get it to break loose, I was a little concerned about putting a 3/8 drive on here and if I would get the torque enough to break it loose. But it worked just fine. Had my 3/8 breaker bar, and it's just about as long as my long-handled snap-on ratchet. You lay it there side by side, they're just about the same length. And it broke it free right away. Real easy. So, what I got going on now, a little problem I ran into. Let me move the Duke out of the way. And a little problem I ran into here, that old outer. And if you can see, the threads on that old outer were quite a bit smaller diameter. And then you had your taper down here where it would fit. The new one has like 1/2-inch threads and takes a castle nut. Instead of just being torqued down, it'll take a castle nut and a cotter pin, and the threads are like 1/2-inch. So the hole in the steering knuckle was too small and it wouldn't fit. It wouldn't go through. It'll start in there, but it wouldn't go all the way through. And it does have the tapered area down here as well. So my solution to that, it is the right piece. The geometry, the bend, everything's all the same. It is the right piece. The thread's just a little different. So my solution to that was I got my drill and a carbide burr, and I've been working that carbide burr around the inside of that hole, trying to open it up just enough that those threads would push through Once I can get the threads through and get the castle nut started, shouldn't be a big deal. Should pull tight and hold just fine. So that's where we're at on the Trailblazer. I worked on that until 8, 9 o'clock last night, and I got it real close. Measuring it with my calipers, the hole's right at just a millimeter or two away from being at the 1/2 inch mark, and that thread sliding through. So I'm going to continue with that. Get the tire put on. I got it the lock nut that connect where the outer screws into the inner. There's a lock nut that jams down on it. I have to put some blue Loctite on that so that it'll hold in place. And we'll get back to it, and we'll get back with you once it's done and see if it fixed the problem. Hey everybody, next part of this job, got it all back together. Got both ends of it put back together. Saved you having to watch the modifications that I had to make to that steering knuckle. It wasn't fun. The taper pitch on the bottom up in here where it goes in ended up being different. The thread shaft was different, and to get it up in there high, and once I got to go all the way through and the threads to get it to pull up high enough to get my cotter pin to go through, I ended up having to do a little grinding in the bottom where it tapers, and I had to take about 1/8 of an inch off of the top of the steering knuckle part. It was bumped up a little bit from the rest of the steering knuckle, so I just kind of ground it flat, and it still wasn't perfect. I had to find that castle nut was on there so tight I couldn't turn it anymore with my 1/2 inch breaker bar, and I ended up having to go find a little bit smaller diameter cotter pin to go through it. And but we got it in. It ain't going nowhere. And then these spring clips that hold the boot on, there's a small one up here, and there'll be a big one on the back side. I don't have the tool to replace these, so they're trash. Every time I pull them off, they're trash, and I just replace them with zip ties. So I'm gonna get a little bit of grease, put in the bottom of this, get on this outer, because this one has a grease zerk in it. The old one did not, and so I'm gonna go ahead and grease it up. And I'm gonna try to grease up a couple other spots around here that I saw had grease zerks. And we're gonna put the wheel back on. We're gonna take it for a drive and hope that the ball joints aren't bad too. Okay, we're down the road from my house, 45 miles an hour. And it's pulling a little bit back to the right instead of the left. If I let go of the wheel, it was pulling real hard off to the left. And now it's pulling a little bit to the right. I believe that's probably just a low tire, and probably needs an alignment since I had the steering apart. But I'm gonna say the steering's fixed. The death wobble's gone. There's some other little issues for me to address with it, but I believe it's time to go put some fuel in it and start driving it back and forth to work. Talk to y'all later.